What an absolute wonderful day. Thank you for having me here, Karthik. It means a lot to me. Indo-soul. I think this is a subject which is really close to all our hearts. Um, India is so diverse and it has such a rich spectrum of different types of perspectives, both musical and artistic. And there is nothing more wonderful than to see people, when artists reach down to their roots, whatever their roots or their learning is, and from there fly to create new sounds, new perspectives. There is really nothing more wonderful than that. Karthik is embarking on a beautiful journey. This is your first album, and I think it's just the first of many. I'd like to open up the conversation, and perhaps the most obvious person to start the conversation is you, Jayashree. Tell me, I mean, you have spent so much of, you've given so much to the music industry, to yourself also, as we were talking about it. Tell us something about the explorations, your perspectives of your work in this journey.
I think I was truly blessed to be in a family that loved anything that sounded beautiful and didn't look at it as Carnatic or Hindustani or film, or didn't separate it like that. And the eclectic upbringing that I had, owing to the fact that I grew up in Bombay. So if the day started with singing Carnatic music, then at 7:30 it meant listening to Sangeet Sarita, which had film music, Carnatic and Hindustani music, up to Fauji Bhai on the radio, which was at 3 p.m., which would broadcast all old film songs which the listeners wanted to listen to. And I remember that I was told to practice every song as diligently as possible, whether it was a Kamboji of Tyagaraja or it was a film song of Mohammad Rafi, or later in my life it was a song that was released by the group ABBA or Michael Jackson's song. So anything that was beautiful, that touched our heart. I remember spending hours on the harmonium trying to perfect one line of a Lata Mangeshkar song. So I think the seeds of my journey, the seeds of the possibilities and scope that have later formed a beautiful road for me were sown then when I was a child. And I'm very fortunate that this perspective is what I grew up with the people around me. And life's path kept giving me such opportunities, whether it was a jingle, whether it was a documentary, or whether it was classical music. And I do think that anything, any crossover, any experimentation stems out of a very deep-rooted tradition, a deep training and discipline in a system. And this evening we can't find a better example for this than Karthik Iyer. And all my wishes to him on this beautiful journey. We are all fans of his music, and I'm sure that he's going to find path-breaking ways to identify his soul, like how he has named his album.
You brought up something very interesting. You said rigors, and you spoke about the hard work and the discipline of music. I think we spoke about it also before. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Do you really feel that people, without going through this discipline of, a training, can you still have those kind of explorations? What is...
I didn't use the word rigor, you used the word.
I'm sorry.
But I must admit, as a child, I remember getting up crying because it was only 4 o'clock in the morning and had to sing till 6:30 before I went to school. And after school, I was not allowed to play with my friends because I had to come back and sing. There was this very strict parent, my mother, who would watch for every friend who knocked at my door to tell them, no, she has to sing, you can go and play. But I realized even then that it was a special opportunity that I was getting, and thanks to my mother. But years later, when I can identify with every swara or every talam as my own friend, as someone I want to seek refuge in, when music becomes my corner, my secret corner, my escape route, and everything, I can't find more words, I don't need to, then I don't think it's rigor. It's a beautiful journey. But I think all that was required, not to be able to sing a raga better because or a tala better, but to know, to find myself in it. And it's very important for me to see where I stand in this, how much my nose dips into this deep ocean. So I think that life, that training of many hours is the most beautiful aspect of being a student of music.
And I think it is that knowledge, as you said, the notes, I spoke of the notes. It is a very beautiful way you put it across. But I think once the note becomes, or you become the notes, or the notes become you, it actually becomes a very liberating, it gives you the freedom to
fly.
To fly.
Like we see today.
Karthik, you want to say something about it?
I think the whole the practice makes it's sort of, I feel it's a vehicle. Our expression comes from our heart, but we need a vehicle to travel in. And this is sort of like more and more we practice, it sort of becomes like a well-oiled machine. And also it's very meditative, once you get into the zone and practice maybe for an hour, a couple of hours, even more, you don't really need to do your meditation, pranayama. Like the same effect that you get out of that is what you get when you're practicing, when you're one with the music. And I think it's an enjoyable process.
Rajiv, what would be your perspective?
I've never had to sit 3 hours and practice music, so I'm not qualified to speak about that. But it's a fact that in any job, I mean, if you were to pick up a camera and you expect things to be in focus, it will not be. I mean, unless you have practiced enough. Whether it's you're playing cricket or whether you're doing anything requires that rigor. I mean, there's no way out of it. And the thing that you see now is that, I mean, because I teach and I see a lot of youngsters also coming in, something about them, you get a feeling that they get bored very fast. I think there's too many distractions. The space is very short attention span. So, but things like music and, to develop your own voice, to develop your own style, to develop
your own expression.
Yeah, that takes time. Because if you were to take a song and just, sing it, and that's what YouTube tells you, you hear a song and you just sing it back. That doesn't take that long. If you have a certain amount of skill, you'll do it. But to make that song yours and not like them, that is where the catch is, to have authorship. One of the things that I really liked, and when Karthik came and made me listen to the music, I said, okay, I'll definitely come, is because, for me, as a filmmaker, you're looking at sound. I mean, what is this man doing with this sound? What is he doing with this composition? And honestly, when you hear fusion, you think there's violin, there's fusion, it's going to sound like Shakti. Because that's been the template for the last, 20 years is what Shakti's sound was. And on top of it, when you have things like the drums and the guitar and violin, there's going to be some raga which is going to be explored, and then there's going to be moras and korves, and people are going to dam, start beating it up, and that's what's going to happen, That's primarily because rock works at a certain decibel, it works at a certain sound, and it has a certain rhythmic structure. And what they can identify very much in Carnatic is the rhythmic structure. So in the process of rhythm and the process of this, you find that there's a lack of silence. There's a lack of softness, which you see sometimes in a film song. And that's when one person is conceiving this to the end. And what you are talking about, and about collaboration, is when many musicians come together, how do you get the quieter song, How do you get the space in it? And it's there. And it's there in great measure in this thing, which I find it beautiful. I find there's musical maturity here. Because it's easy to drum up and to, take everything to a high pitch and, and higher amplitude. But the quieter things, certain sangadis come out well when they are played at a certain scale. And that is very much there. And I find there's a lot of variety. And it's wonderful, and you should concentrate more on your singing. You'll be a true rock star. The male Vanessa May.
Collaborative works, and I think that's really the crux of it all. When you say fusion or collaborative works or crossover, and I think we all prefer to use the word collaborative works than fusion for various reasons. I think it's a very interesting time. I think also in India we find across the board a lot of people doing a lot of collaborative works, a lot of explorations happening. And of course, culturally, I think with film music also we've had this happening all the time, where film music has been influenced a lot by other different types of influences. Can you say something about that, Darren?
First of all, good evening to everyone, and it's nice to be in front of these legendary people here, including Karthik. So, talking about film music, like crossover music in films, first of all, what I like about Karthik is his sound. Let me come to the album next. His sound of his violin tone, what he gives, because in films, what we expect for a song, we go in search of new singers. The reason why we go in search of new singers is because we want a different sound, so that our song sounds different. So it's the same case with an instrument too. A violin always sounds the same. How do you make a violin tone sound different? So he's a genius in that. So whenever I call him, every movie of mine, he's there. We've always he's always been associated with me, and every movie he gives a different tone. So that's the first thing I asked him. Indo soul, what does it mean? He said it's a different sound. So I was very worried about the sound only. So I asked him before even he mixed the tracks. He got it, and he played the whole thing to me. So. I was really touched by the sound. The sound of it was the best part of it. So the influence of it in the cinema world, like right now, it's been changing a lot. I see like some of the tracks what he has done here. I see some of them can be in cinema too, because the whole cinema world, cinema music, everything is changing. Because we have people like them making such songs, such albums. So it's a good thing, So I'm very happy to hear such things coming up.
I think Karthik when he spoke to me, he asked me to conduct this conversation, and he said he is really thinking about the future of crossover music and all this work that he's done with Indo Soul and crossover music in general. His concern or his interest was, what is the future of it? And what do you think the future of it is in film?
In film, as I said, being an individual album, we can see, like in those days, like 5 years, 6 years back, we didn't have a media to promote such an album here in Tamil Nadu. Because we didn't have a proper channel, we didn't have a proper radio station to play such songs. But the film music was always, dominating. It's still dominating. But right now we have this strong social media which has been taking it up. And which is where I think the whole cinema scene has changed, the movies are changing. So obviously these kind of music will be easily, there. And I'm sure like in another few more, after listening to this album and, few more, they should be doing more and more like this. And I think after a few more years or, I think the whole scene will change.
What intrigues me is the question is that would musicians and music producers, I'm talking about in the film, in mainstream film, by by incorporating more of crossover music in productions, would that actually change audiences' tastes, or is there a tendency to kind of play to audience tastes, existing audience tastes?
You can answer this.
We can talk about this for hours.
You know, if you look briefly at the history of Tamil music, you found that before Ilayaraja, it was largely based on Indian melodies of raga-based kind of compositions. When Ilayaraja came in, I mean, he brought in both folk on one side and Western classical. But what this also brought is the superstar composer who wrote everything down and instrumentalists played it. But that was necessary because a song recording had to be recorded on analog tape and it had to finish in half a day. You had to finish the song, second day, and there's also RR going on, and he was doing all this and also composing for the next film. So he was very productive. 50 films, 40 films, you know, producing 6 songs. It's unbelievable what Ilayaraja did. You know, 600 songs, 700 songs in a year. I mean, that man also created things which nobody else had done. Like he was writing score sheets, people were coming and reading off score sheet, he was getting metronomes in and getting timing. So film music completely changed when once Raja came in. Now what happened is, the big change that came after that was the advent of technology. And people don't recognize the fact that Rahman is Rahman also because he recorded his own songs. So the moment Rahman recorded his songs, he recorded it in his house. So he would call Keith Peter and say, okay, now play a good bass loop. So it was a jam. And it was the beginning of collaborative music where you would call in a singer and say, you tell me what you can do. So on one level, it was the opening of crossover that was happening. You know, where it was not one superstar composer, but it was actually individual brilliances of instrumentalists coming in, and also his skill as a recording engineer. And he was pushing the envelope in that. And I remember when Chinna Chinna Aase came in, everybody said, sir, idella city la dhan sir. La oorlella idu odadu sir. But what happened? It just went away. So naysayers will always be there. But now what has happened, that production, that sound quality is given. Everybody produces. Dharan does it, everybody does it, everybody is expected. And so the quality of sound that Dharan is talking about, which shocks us when you see, is, I think it's the organization. All of us have got the right reverb, you know, chick, 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 how to put that cymbal making more sound, how to get the bass down and how to do all that limit. But I think over and above that, what is the danger that, you know, mass commercialization does is the decline of the melody and the rise of the Kutu song. So, melody is the base of film music, because what you're doing in film music is what you cannot tell by dialogue. If you can tell a girl, I love you, then you better tell that dialogue because it's much shorter than 3.5 minutes. So people are going to walk out if you smoke a cigarette and come back if you're just going to tell I love you for 3.5 minutes. The question is, how differently do you tell it and you keep them whole? I mean, the music has to be really interesting. So I think there's a popular adage in Mylapore, and you go and sit in Music Academy and listen to Carnatic music. They says, "Yenna sir, is the confusion, sir. In the fusion lang confusion." So that I think is changing. I think you will see more mainstreaming of music like this. It will not be seen as confusion like the way people dismiss Rahman. They now accept it, and the world has accepted. So I think each person has to push the envelope, and I'm delighted that Karthik, you're pushing the envelope. So, now you get all the success, and just be brave and keep doing it.
Thank you, sir.
Jayashree, you've done a lot of collaborative works, not just within the Indian landscape, but also internationally. The one I particularly like is the one you did with Tion Sek, you know, from Africa. So just as a, how was that experience and in terms of the exploration of working with such a different type of music?
So to give a small gist for those who don't know what I did with Thione Seck is a Senegalese singer. He's a pop icon in Senegal. And he wanted to create, which is like Rajiv said, an album of love songs. So it was a 60-minute CD, not 3.5 minutes. But he wanted to retain his language and that of mine. So he sang in Senegalese and my responses were in Tamil. And I sang semi-classical, that which comes from Carnatic classical music, but which is semi. And he sang Senegalese pop music. So when I recorded the album and he called me to record till I finished the recording, and for many days I didn't understand what I did or what was happening. All I had was the faith in him that he was an outstanding, a great artist and he wanted to produce something different. But the album sold huge amounts of copies, and I have gone and performed in that part of Africa because of this album. I've performed Carnatic music. So that's the journey that a crossover. So crossover to me is a bridge that we try to make build a bridge every time. Like Rajiv rightly said, these bridges have been, people have started to make it from the time of Ramayana, from Hanuman, and till now we are making these bridges, and every time it's a new effort, and it's a new identity from an individual who's grown up with different forms of music, who's trained in different forms of music, but who has the courage and who wants to search for something on his own. I think that is the definition of crossover, and we have a brilliant artist at that, and wish you all the best, Karthik, and all our prayers and wishes for you on that.
Well, I think, as I said, we can go on talking for a long, long time, but I've been given strict instructions that we must wrap up at 50. Yes, we have time.
What's the time, please?
50.
7? Okay.
10.
Yeah, we can go to the... If you have a last question, maybe that's...
No, it's just, I think the only thing to wrap up with is that it's really heartening to see that there is far more acceptance for collaborative works and crossover music now, because I remember a lot of my friends when I was in school and college had to take some unpleasant decisions of whether to choose music like jazz or something which was a little, at that time, considered off-center and not just pure classical. And I think with the beautiful landscape that we have, the musical landscape and the blessings of people, of virtuosos, I think India has really, Indo soul is here to stay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.